out near the big wall-mounted portal that presenters used to display their lecture data on. The Bose Motel had 3 security guards standing close by. They all wore sharp business suits and appeared perfectly friendly, but Melanie's scan located some inserts with a very high-powered density wet-wired into their bodies. Their visible ock tattoos were green and red lines running parallel along the rear of their cheeks. 2 of the Bose Motel's sensor stalks bent around to follow her as she walked over to them. "Hello, Melanie," it said. She saw it now had a slim modern handheld array hanging from a leather strap around one of its arm rings. "Hello," she said pleasantly. "So, are you Dudley 1 or 2? What have the pair of you decided?" "We haven't discussed that yet." Melanie was amused to hear the array synthesizing Dudley's voice perfectly. It obviously irked the human version, judging by his expression of distaste. She smiled brightly and leaned forward to kiss him. Morton was over by the main door with Kat, so she figured it would be easy enough. Amazingly, Dudley moved back before her lips touched him. "Dudley?" She frowned at him.
Yes. I've been meaning to talk to you."
"Talk to me?" "Yes.
Exit
I'd just
now.
like to say that I am happy to stand aside now Morton has returned." "Stand aside?" "That's right. I know how much you feel for him. In view of that, I think it's for the best. Circumstances have changed
Keep
for both
right,
of us, have they not?"
and then continue straight on.
Circumstances. Melanie desperately wanted to stop repeating things,
Go
but
straight
she was
on.
so surprised by Dudley, her brain was refusing to come up with anything original. When she studied him, she saw he'd actually shaved. The tiredness and perpetual worry were fading from his eyes. He'd even dressed in a stylish mauve shirt and black semi-organic trousers.
At the roundabout,
For the first
take the
time,
second exit.
she could actually see his true age in that calm face that looked back unflinchingly at her. "I believe even you would have to concede that our relative situations have altered substantially since we met," Dudley said. "That calls for a serious reevaluation of our relationship." She just stared at him. It wasn't even Dudley talking anymore. There wasn't an illusion of reticence or caution. His voice was calm and measured, verging on patronizing.
Exit
"Of course,
now.
I'm enormously grateful for what we experienced and shared," he said hurriedly. "Without you, I would never be whole again. And I will never be able to thank you enough for that. I hope we can continue to be friends as well as colleagues in this endeavor." "You're dumping me." "Melanie, human beings are effectively immortal. I know this is your first life and everything is more intense for you, but believe me when I say nothing lasts forever. It is better this way. Honesty is the way forward
Go
for both
straight
of us."
on.
"You are dumping me." Even from her own mouth, it sounded terribly wrong. "I am," the Bose Motel said. "It's because I'm a complete asshole." Dudley glared at his alien twin. "I see you haven't mastered tact yet." "Well, face it, where would I inherit that from, after everything I've done for you?" Melanie asked. It was as though she was questioning herself. "Our hierarchical structure wasn't entirely one-sided," Dudley said in the kind of tone used to correct one of his students. "I believe you gained as much, if not more, from this relationship as I did. Look at where we are, deciding the future of humankind." "Oh, just fuck up." She turned around and walked away fast. At least there was no danger of tears. For a second, the image of JC sinking to the ground clutching at his balls filled her mind. Well, no tears in her eyes, anyway. He's not even worth that. "Sorry," Dudley Bose's voice called out across the lecture theater. Melanie didn't turn to check which one of them had said it. She already knew. "You okay?" Tiger Pansy asked. "Sure, I'm fine." The original bounce back. "Gotta thank you," Tiger Pansy said. She waved enthusiastically at Quaddux, who was discussing sensorium interface technology with one of the CST technicians. The Rael raised a tentacle in acknowledgement. "This is like the bestest gig ever." "I thought you'd like it. But Tiger, remember, you really can't tell anyone afterward. These people can't be messed around.
I know that. I ain't that stupid.
I know you're not. Take care.
You're going?
Yeah. There's only one thing I want now, and it's not here.
Well, I hope you find it.
Me too. Nobody around the Rael really noticed as she walked away. The last thing she wanted was to run over to Morton after what had happened, so she went toward a door on the opposite side of the lecture theatre. Osha was sitting on one of the remaining audience chairs, suspiciously close to the door. Melanie gave him a fond smile and sat beside him. Without warning, she darted forward and gave him a kiss.
What was that for?
He asked.
Osha Finn, my very own guardian angel.
I didn't think you were speaking to me after Isabella.
Your halo did dim there for a minute, but once again you made sure no harm came to me.
Osha glanced down at the two aliens who were now talking together. Dudley Bowes was standing beside the Bowes Motile, trying to steer the conversation his way.
One of your smarter moves, Osha said. You can do a lot better than him.
She glanced at the trio of armor suits.
I thought you said you were married.
Osha grinned. I guess I deserved that. Shouldn't pry into your private life.
There's nothing much private about it. That's my biggest problem. What about you? What are you doing here?
I need to talk to Nelson. I have a favor to ask.
What's that?
I need to get some people off Boongate. A Senate security team was following a suspected Starflyer agent and got stuck there. My fault.
I doubt it.
Do you want me to talk to Nigel about it?
He has the final say on that.
Osha gave her a surprised look.
You can do that.
For you?
Of course.
Might be worth it. He didn't sound very certain.
Just say the word.
I owe you.
No, you don't. A month's Unisphere access, and a week at a B&B, if I remember rightly.
There's a lot of interest piling up in that account, Osha Finn. Another time, another universe.
I'd still like to repay you.
I'm not sure it's worth it. Look, this is just about over now. Sheldon will destroy the Prime homeworld. Paula and the Guardians will track down and eliminate the Starflyer. Everybody needs to start thinking what they're going to do after the war, because life is going to be a whole lot sweeter then. After what we've all been through, it can't be anything else.
God, I hadn't even thought about afterward.
I've been so scared since Rand Town. Trying to keep one step ahead takes up every moment.
You're a damn good reporter. I bet you wind up with your own show.
That'd be nice, she said, and it was a comfy thought, the kind she had before the ships flew down out of a clean Rand Town sky, and her world turned upside down. Again, I could do with something that's going to last.
Well, there you go then. There's just one thing I've got to do first.
Osha gave a mock groan.
What?
I'm going to cover Alessandra Barron's arrest. I want to see her led away in chains. I want to show the entire Commonwealth that most beautiful sight. They don't manacle people anymore. Besides, if she's a Starflyer agent, it's likely to get violent.
Here's hoping,
Melanie muttered with a wicked smirk. Who's going to be the arresting officer?
Hasn't been assigned yet,
Osha said with an eye on Nelson and the Rael. But you could put in for it, couldn't you? You could do that while I speak to Nigel. How about that? A trade, not a repayment.
Done.
The Maglev Express was almost empty. After all, who in their right mind would travel to Wessex right now? Alec walked out of the first-class carriage onto the nearly deserted platform in the Narabri station's Oxerol terminal. The three cases carrying his armor suit and weapons followed loyally a few meters behind. Vic Russell was close on his heels, eager to get going. Matthew Oldfield, John King, and Jim Nguyen formed a rearguard group, trying to keep their conversation light-hearted. It wasn't going well. Every movement agitated some injuries sustained on Illuminatus. Alec knew they shouldn't be going into combat again so soon, but this mission overrode any kind of by-the-book protocol. Besides, he kept telling himself, there were 5 of them, and they'd raided the Paris office armory for some serious heavy-caliber hardware. There would be no repeat of treetops, no matter what Tarlo was equipped with this time. 2 men were waiting for them on the platform outside their carriage. One of them was in a Navy captain's uniform. Alec recognized him immediately. "Captain Monroe." "Pleased to meet you. Daniel Alster here is our liaison with CST for this operation, and we have some very good news for you." "We can go?" Vic demanded. "Yes," Oscar said. "All right." Vic high-fived with John King. "We have some transport for you, gentlemen." Daniel gestured at a big Ford 10-seater Holland parked on the side of the platform. "It'll take us over to the station's track engineering facility." "What's there?" Vic asked. "A train that will take you through the wormhole." "How long before we go through?" "Once you're suited up, we can take you straight to the gateway," Daniel said, unperturbed by the big man's attitude. "Thank you," Alec said before Vic could make a scene. He was already regretting agreeing to the big man coming on the mission. Even if they were successful in engaging Tarlo, he wasn't sure they could get him into the cage they'd brought. "You should know the gateway will only be opening once," Oscar said. "After you're through, you will be evacuating into the future with the rest of the population." "We accept that," Alec said. He wondered if he should give Vic another chance to withdraw. Once the mission was over, the big man would be separated from Gwyneth for a long time. The Ford drove them to one of the 8 long sheds that housed CST's Wessex Track Engineering Division. A single gentian blue carriage was waiting for them, which looked like it had been in service for a century at least. There was a tiny cabin at the front, with 5 rows of bench seats giving the track crew a view through grimy windows. 3/4 of the Spartan metal panel interior was simply storage space for bots and equipment. Long doors at the rear had their own lift platforms, which were folded up against the sides. "It's not fast," Ulster said as they climbed up the ladders to the cabin. "But it is reliable, and it can get you there easily enough. The drive array has modern software. Traffic control can take you straight across the station yard to the gateway. I'll be in the control center myself to supervise the opening." "Thanks," Alec told him. The rest of the team was climbing up to see what they'd got. "Your cases can come up on the door elevators," Ulster told them. "If you'd like to get suited up now, we can begin." "Keep a communications link open to me from now on," Oscar said. "Will do," Alec said. "And thank Nigel Sheldon for the opportunity. It means a lot to us." "I know." Oscar backed out of the door and went down the short ladder to the ground. "All right," Alec said. "Jim, get the doors open and our cases inside. We need to be ready. Matthew, establish a link to Edmund Lee. Let's find out what the bastard's up to. Then we can finalize our game plan." The Abel's ND-47 was fully automatic, of course. New arrays had been installed during its refurbishment. The drive software was capable of controlling it through the maze of tracks that made up all of CST's planetary stations, and then taking the engine out on the main lines of whatever planet it was visiting. There were manual systems fitted, but they were there to comply with safety regulations rather than necessity. Adam gazed over the broad console that took up the entire front portion of the tiny cab sitting atop the huge engine. The 2 narrow windows in front gave him a view along the top of the engine, where the darkish purple metal segments were riddled with long black grills and stumpy, tarnished chrome vent pipes. When he turned around, the single rear window showed him the 2 long wagons pressing up against the engine. Display screens along the back of the console, filled with graphics that illustrated the coupling integration diagnostics at work, checking the integrity of the connections. The left-hand side of the console was a burgundy color, containing all the nuclear micro-pile controls and readouts. A completely new console section, which was fixed to newly welded brackets on the wall, presented the control systems for the force field and armaments the Guardians had grafted on in the last few days. That was why they'd agreed someone should be in the cab, though again with modern control arrays it wasn't strictly necessary. They all just felt more confident with someone up there. Adam saw the last of the mobile gantries lower its platform and roll away from the engine. When he stuck his head out of the cab door, He could see Kieran walking among the engineer Ingbots as they fussed around the wheels. His e-butler told him a call was coming in from Marisa McFoster. "How's it going?" he asked. "Victor's on the move," she said. "There's a whole load of vehicles driving out of the Sunforge warehouse.
Vans and small trucks, all shielded. We can't see what's inside."
"Where are they going?" "It looks like they're heading for the gateway. They're not using any of the yard service roads. They're just driving right across the rails." "Don't expose yourself," he told her. "Just maintain the observation." "Is this it? Is the Starflyer coming?" "I don't know, but we're ready for it." Adam sounded a single blast on the engine's horn that reverberated around the big shed. He couldn't resist. He leaned out of the cab door and bellowed, "All aboard!"
Get ready to turn right.
Wilson knew he should dump his irritation toward Dudley Bowes. It really wasn't helpful. But there was just something about the astronomer that rubbed him the wrong way. He'd been furious when the old man lobbied himself onto the second chance. He'd been exasperated with the young re-lifer who hadn't adjusted to his new circumstances. And now the man had all his memories back and seemed a whole lot more rational. He was still irritating, still pressing for attention, getting in the way. It had seemed like a good idea while they waited for the various arrest squads to bring in known Starflyer agents, and Paula and Nigel began their search for the actual alien itself. Wilson and Anna had gone over to the Bowes Motile when it finished talking to Quatux, and asked if it had accessed the signal that the faraway flare had broadcast. "No," it said, "I haven't." "The Commonwealth has never been able to translate it," Wilson said. "But if you're right about the Starflyer being an alien prime..." "I understand," the Bowes Motile said. "I should be able to translate it for you." "I'd like you to try," Wilson said. "It's been bothering me ever since we found out what the Starflyer is. Suppose it was talking to another ship." "That's unlikely," Dudley Bowes said. He'd inched his way closer to them as soon as Wilson started talking to the Bowes Motile. Wilson pressed his teeth together, then smiled tightly. "Why's that?" "The flare emission was omnidirectional. I imagine their ships would have remained silent during flight, so as not to attract attention from whoever built the barriers," Anna said. "Once the Starflyer had landed, it wouldn't know where any of the others are. It would have to broadcast in all directions." "Which it actually didn't," the Bowes Motile said. "The faraway star has a rotation of 25 days. As the flare only lasted for 7 days, the signal was only broadcast across a relatively narrow sector of the galaxy, one that didn't include the Dyson pair. In fact, the star's bulk would have shielded them from the signal." "Can we just examine the signal?" Wilson said. He was beginning to regret mentioning it. His e-butler accessed the National Library on Damara and pulled out a recording of the signal. They all waited while the Bowes Motile reviewed it. The initial flurry of activity in the lecture theatre that had accompanied Quatux's arrival was now dying down. Most of the technical systems were set up. Quatux and Tiger Pansy were talking together. Cat's Claws remained on duty by the main entrance. Nelson maintained a number of his own security staff around himself and Paula. The only person Wilson couldn't see was Melanie. "Simple enough," the Bowes Motile said. "It's basically an identity, which is Morning Light Mountain 17,735, followed by a short message. I am here. If any of us survive, contact me or fly here." The pattern's a very old form, but the content is easy enough to decipher. There is little ambiguity. "Did we ever detect another flare?" Anna
At
asked.
the roundabout.
An answer to the Starflyer. "No," Dudley said. "That doesn't mean there wasn't one," the Bowes Motile said. "If another survivor picked up the signal,
now.
it could have used an interstellar communications maser to reply. Their ships were all equipped with them. The Commonwealth would never see that."
At the roundabout.
Wilson was thinking
Take the
along
second
similar
exit.
lines. "So we don't actually know if there are any more of these alien primes at loose. If one survived,
Exit
it is logical to assume there could be others," the Bowes Motile said. "Though I doubt there can be many. The Dyson Beta Primes had only just started building starships. They didn't have the production capacity of Dyson Alpha when the barriers were established. The numbers would be small. But if any of them landed on a world more useful than far away, there's no telling how big their civilization is by now. Primes almost match the old nightmare of exponential expansion. You should assume that the Dyson Alpha Primes had starships in flight as well, Anna said. We are going to have to conduct an extensive search of stars in that sector of the galaxy, the Bose Motile said. The problem could be more widespread than originally thought. If Nigel Sheldon does initiate novas, the problem will be considerably reduced, Dudley said. The lecture theatre's main doors opened and Oscar walked through. He caught sight of Wilson and waved happily. What the hell are you doing here? Wilson said, smiling happily. I might ask you the same thing, Oscar said after he'd collected his kiss from Anna. You should have carried him off back to York 5 and started a decent honeymoon. He scolded her. Don't think I didn't want to, she said wistfully. So when did you get back? About 5 hours ago. Damn, I'm glad you're okay, Wilson said. Are you reloading? The Dublin is, yes. I've got another job. What? Columbia isn't being difficult about you being one of my placements, is he? No, quite the opposite. Columbia is coming around to the idea the Starflyer might be genuine. I've been appointed as a glorified messenger boy. He explained the Paris team's mission.
Keep
Sheldon
right.
said you'd briefed me on
And
this
then exit
black
right.
ops setup you've got running here. Is that really a Rael? He was staring at Quatos.
Exit right.
Yes, it really is, Wilson said. It's called Quatos, and it's agreed to help us root out Starflyer agents. Uh-huh. Oscar faced the Bose Motile. And that alien?
Get ready
It's a
to
prime,
turn right.
Anna said with a laugh. Our deadliest enemy. The good news is that this one is harmless and on our side,
Turn
Wilson
right.
said. And the bad, it's yet another version of Dudley Bose. Alec ran the integration program one last time. The additional weapons mounted on his armor suit responded properly. 2 particle lances on mal-metal arms that were secured to the base of his spine rose up over his shoulder and swung from side to side as his sensors ran a targeting program. They locked onto Vic, whose armor suit had almost doubled in size, thanks to the backpack missile dispenser. Hey, careful who you're pointing those things at, Vic complained. The particle lances retracted, folding back parallel to Alec's spine. He was as anxious as any first-day recruit to fire them. He hadn't known particle
At the
lances could be
roundabout,
built so small,
take the first
and
exit.
even with modern power cells, he didn't have many shots. Of course, without the armor and malmetal, he could barely pick one up. They weighed so much. He couldn't imagine what they were made out of. Solid uranium, by the feel of it.
Exit now.
John King and Jim Nuwan both had rotary launchers on their forearms, with a flexible feed tube snaking around to their backpacks. Matthew Oldfield was carrying all the electronic warfare systems. There were so many sneak bots clinging to his suit, he looked like the king of the insect. Matthew also managed the cage, 3 large matte black mobile cubes that should be powerful enough to hold Taro. Alec was mildly impressed that the carriage floor could take their combined weight. He brought the management array systems up into his virtual vision. Midnight's black hands flicked over the control icons. Narabri Station Traffic Control responded with a transit authorization, and they started moving with a small judder. We're on the move, he told Oscar. Okay, I'll inform Ulster. He's in the Gateway Control Center. What's Tarlo doing? Lee says he's still up in the security room. You sure you want to do this? It's not quite what I thought I'd be doing when I woke up this
Get
morning,
ready
but
to
yeah.
turn right.
Good luck. Yeah. See you in 15 years. Their speed built up as soon as they
Turn
left
right.
the track maintenance division shed. The station force field curved overhead, a grey film smearing the sky. Above that, the Narabri city force field extended from horizon to horizon, its apex reaching out of the troposphere. The Borealis storms had died down now, though the highly charged atmosphere was still plagued by severe lightning storms. Brutal blue-white flashes rippled around the boundary of the city force field. Alec felt ridiculously safe underneath all that technological protection. The Primes had flung their worst at Wessex, and the Big 15 planet remained secure. It made him confident for the future. The carriage snaked over points every few seconds, clicking and rattling as it moved to a different set of rails, then switching again. Long trains slid past on either side, blurs of lighted windows. Up ahead, a long stretch of pale rosy light spilled out from the gateways to douse the myriad tracks. It had gaps in it, dark, shadowy sections. Gateways to the second 47, Alec thought. They'd never shine their unique starlight here again. The knowledge made him sad. "Anything new on Tarlo?" he asked Matthew. "No, boss." Okay. He knew there wasn't. Just had to do something to distract his nerves, which were far too jumpy. The carriage lined up on the cliff face of gateways and carried on forward at a much slower speed. There were fewer trains running on this section of the station yard. They passed a GH-7 class engine waiting on a siding. The massive machine only had 5 wagons attached, their pea-green metal bodywork caked in topaz sand thick enough to obscure their company logo. His e-butler told him Daniel Ulster was calling. "You should be on the direct Boongate line in another couple of minutes," Ulster said. "Once you're there, we will open the gateway and give you transit clearance. It will close 30 seconds after you're through." "Right. Thanks. Good luck." "Looking good," Alec told his arrestee. His heart started to beat a lot faster as the carriage squeaked and rolled onward. Oscar simply couldn't take his eyes off Tiger Pansy. She'd caught him staring quite a few times, and he'd managed to deflect her questioning gaze with a polite half-smile. He knew it was getting close to rudeness now, but she was so out of place here, her attraction was akin to a star's gravity well. But then, would someone like her care about middle-class standards of rudeness? And what does that judgment say about me? Damn. Was Adam right about what I've become? "You're going to have to stop that," Anna said, and moved to stand in front of him. "I know," he mumbled awkwardly. Her smile became evil. "If you're a big fan, you should get over that shy streak and go ask her for an autograph." "Well, shucks. I guess I'm just too bashful." Wilson chuckled. "Stop letting her bully you, man." Advice from the henpecked husband. Great. Just what I need. Wilson's tranquility chilled rapidly. "Oh,
It was a nice
hell,"
ride.
he whispered. "Dudley Bowes is on the way over. Both versions. The human one looks pissed." Oscar resisted the impulse to turn around. Time to make a break for it? "Too late," Anna said through gritted teeth and a broad, false smile. "Captain Monroe." Dudley's imperious voice cut right through Oscar's residual good humor. He turned and summoned up a smile. "Dudley, I understand you've reacquired your memories." His gaze flicked to the tall alien with its odd, stalk-like tentacles. It unnerved him to see something resembling an eye on the end of